stream. Glad to have you all in. It's been a long time since we have been in the studio, so we're glad to be back with you. Let's start with a quick prayer, and then we've got some good news and some terrible news to share with you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. O heavenly King, Comforter, the Spirit of truth, who art in all places and fillest all things, treasury of good things and giver of life, come and dwell in us, cleanse us from every stain, and save our souls, O gracious Lord. Amen. Good morning. Great to see you, beautiful people. Good news. Last Wednesday, my oldest child received her driver's license. So it's a beautiful time. She's a great driver. She's not a great driver. She's a good driver. You know, the greatness will come with the experience of having spent time behind the wheel, but she's a very good and safe driver. So I'm nervous. There's that whole thing, but she's also a very good driver. I'm comfortable because she's safe and she's, you know, I'm coming to grips with all of it. The same time, on the same day, as a matter of fact, I was driving to a getaway with my guy friends. So there's 10 of us, all of us fellows who grew up together in the church. We went to camp together. We've all been at each other's weddings, godparents to children. I mean, we're all connected. And every year we go away for a fellows trip. And it was on the same day. So as I was driving, we were on a small 2-lane highway getting out of Arizona. And you know, the kind with the dotted lines that you pass. You know, when you can pull out in front of a car and pass a slower moving vehicle. Well, we found ourselves for a 30-mile stretch. I was riding with one of my buddies. We were on a 30-mile stretch behind like 4 semis, and it was just impossible to pass. So we just had to ride it out for that 30-mile stretch. We end up in a town where we're going to break off onto another highway. So I zip around the corner of the truck, pass him so that I can get onto the next 2-lane highway without being behind them, so I'm not stuck again. Well, wouldn't you know it, and here's the bad news. In that instant, the policeman, the only one anywhere remotely close to us, is there to give me a ticket. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you know all the headaches to go with tickets. All right, so the story gets really complicated, but let me tell you that the gist of it is this. Like I said, it was a guy's trip. We were going to be away together. You know, we sit around the pool all day and just talk and reminisce and hang out. So I bought a bottle of whiskey to share with the fellas. Well, it was in the back seat. We didn't have room in the trunk and I didn't want it to break. And I was like, oh, he's going to see that thing and think they're drinking in the car. Obviously, we weren't drinking in the car, but there's a bottle of whiskey in there. Second, my buddy in the car with me leans over to the officer, and he's got his driver's license and another card in his hand. And I'm like, oh, it's so cute. I'm like, he's trying to take the ticket for me. I said, but you know, bro, you can't do that. They're not going to let you have the ticket. I have to take the ticket. He says, officer, I just want you to know this is my concealed carry weapon. And I looked at him. What? He has a gun. I had no idea he was carrying a gun with him. Now I'm thinking, well, we're speeding. We got a gun in the car and there's a bottle. The guy's going to take us to jail. Well, if that didn't complicate matters, truly, the officer says, do you know you were speeding 63 and a 35? That's criminal speeding. I could take you to jail. I'm like, oh, now I'm going to jail for a bottle, a gun, and criminal speeding. I'm like, I'll never get out. And it's not even like I'm in Phoenix where I live. I'm in this podunk town. They'll never find me again. All of the chaos going on there, I'm thinking, like, I'm starting to sweat bullets about it. Needless to say, something very powerful happened in all this story. We showed great respect to the officer, great respect to him. Not for any other reason that myself and my buddy who were in the car try very hard to be respectful people. So the first thing was he didn't see the bottle, thank God. But the second thing was that my buddy who had the weapon with him, it's licensed, he has a concealed carry permit. He preempted any issue by saying, here it is. Like, hey, officer, I'm showing you respect. It went a long way with him, with the officer. The second thing that I did, as I got my hands on the wheel, to my right is the console, and in there I keep the, not my license, what do you call it? The insurance card and the registration. So I said, officer, I'm going to reach to my right in the console and get the paperwork you need. He's like, great. So I gave it to him. Then we started kind of flirting with him, like, why are you doing this to us, man? We're good boys. Why, we're having fun with him. Why are you doing it? And he starts to laugh. I saw on his nameplate, and I called him Officer, I won't say his name, but whatever officer his name was. Let's say Smith. Hey, Officer Smith. So now we've personalized the guy. And he says, just hang tight, guys. I'll be right back. Now, as he came back, He said, look, I'm going to write you up for 50 in a 35, so it's not criminal. So thank God he doesn't have to take me to jail. And of course, he gave us the lecture to, drive safely and so on. So I told him, I said, look, you're killing me, bro. I said, this is my daughter. She just got her driver's license this day. This is Hayatullah. This is true story. She just got her driver's license. Will you take a picture with me so that, and Greg can pop it up on the screen, you see him taking the picture with me, giving me the ticket, so that I could send it to her and say, this is what you don't do. Look at the jerk in the background smiling, all happy. He's like, oh, it's going to go to the dick. But he's a nice dude. The point of it is, like, we treated the man with respect, and the man treated us with respect. And it made me think, I mean, he gave me a ticket, and I won't forget him, Officer Smith. If you're watching for any reason, I know where you live. I know what town you work in. All of it to say, I won't forget the respect that he showed us. And I think it's because of the respect we showed him. And this is not to say that we are by any means better than anyone else, but it made me think, and I wanted to share with you all today. Look, respect is something that we don't see a lot of out there. You know that when you have a conversation, you all know this, like when you have a conversation with somebody right now, there's a lot of tension. Obviously, everybody's very sensitive. Everything is deliberately, all senses are heightened, and we get aggressive and angry and screaming and yelling at people. I mean, you can even see, we've all seen the footage where, someone is in a restaurant eating and a particular protest movement group, whatever, comes up and gets right into the person's face and starts screaming and yelling. Like, that's not respectful. I mean, the person's having a meal, and it's just, that's one example of all of what's happening. And people posting terrible things against one another and, on our social media feeds. It's just that constant lack of respect, which is, I think, a very major contributor to all of the hardships that we're facing right now. It's because when you don't respect someone, you dehumanize them, right? So, like, think about it like this. In that encounter with Officer Smith, I made him into Officer Smith, not that stupid cop who's giving me a ticket, right? Like, deliberately, and we're going to talk about that in our practical point. Like, I made him into a human being, and I called him by his name, and things started to change because I showed him respect. He knocked my ticket down from criminal speeding to just normal speeding, whatever the heck that means. But you understand what I'm saying? He was humanized. And the challenge for us is to say, look, how do we as warrior saints humanize everyone else so that we can show them respect, right? It's easy. We often say this. It's easy to smash a thing. It's harder to smash a person, right? Like, it's easy to get angry and disrespect a stupid cop who's going to give me a ticket. It's a lot harder to smash Officer Smith, who's a human being, and as you saw from that photo, a nice fella, right? So how do we change that? I think the first thing we have to do is look at what God's input on this whole situation is. I'm going to read to you a couple of verses, and Greg's going to have them pop on your screen. But let's start, Greg, with Matthew 7. There's this great verse from the Sermon on the Mount, chapter 7. And you guys all know this one, right? So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets. So, I mean, it starts, the idea with the premise, it's like, how would you want to be treated, right? How do you want others to treat you? Well, you have to treat them the same way. I mean, that's just, it seems like a simple, logical understanding, and yet you and I both know it's something that's very rare, right? I mean, like, are we actively thinking about, if that person was to say to me what I'm about to say to them, how would I feel about it, right? This doesn't mean that we don't stand up for our morals and our beliefs and our opinions and our value system. That's not it at all, but it's to do so with respect and gentility. The second verse I want us to see, now this is a little bit longer and it's a little tougher, but it's, especially in light of the current situation where if you don't like something or someone, it somehow gives permission to disrespect and abuse them and their name, right? Like, obviously, in the political realm, I mean, if you don't like a particular candidate, whether it's President Trump or former Vice President Biden, I mean, you can besmirch them and call them all kinds of things and show disrespect to the office aside from the person. And it's like it's expected in this point, but God doesn't look like that. God doesn't look at things like that. God is not really as interested in those things as much as you may think that he is. God is interested in you being respectful and honoring leadership, even if you don't necessarily like leadership. We hear this in 1 Peter chapter 2, which this is practical point number 1. I'm going to jump the gun, but when we're done today, I want you all to take the time to read 1 Peter. There's a lot in it. I think I'm going to spend some time in it. Anyways, 1 Peter. So you see in chapter 2 the following. Maintain good conduct among the Gentiles, so that in case they speak against you as wrongdoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of the visitation. Be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to the emperor as supreme, or to governors as sent by him to punish those who do wrong and praise those who do right. Like, you can see all of a sudden, it's like, what? We're going to submit to the emperor as he's supreme. He's saying honor and respect your authorities. I mean, that's not me. That's Peter, man. Like, I didn't write that stuff, For it is God's will that by doing right, you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. So let your actions and your deeds do the business. And you don't have to say anything about it. Just do the right thing and everyone will see it. And I think that's pretty true. Live as free men, yet without using your freedom as a pretext for evil, but live as servants of God. Honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor. It's a pretty powerful statement to me right there. Like there's a lot of a call for respect there, which is, again, it's vanishes. All right, so the last one, and this is the one that I want us to kind of think of as the overarching theme of it's the mental shift, the change in mentality to help us be respectful. And it comes to us from St. Paul's epistle to the Philippians. In chapter 2, he says the following: do nothing from selfishness or conceit, but in humility count others better than yourselves. Count the other better than yourself. And it finishes with verse 4, let each of you look not to his own interests, but to the interest of others. And this is, classic Christian faith, classic warrior saintism. It's crucifixional living. All of it is to say, I will look at other as better than me. I will look to his interests before mine. I will focus on her before I focus on me. And you can see it. The world is what? Me, me, me. You see that in all of the stuff that you see out there. And if you get to this me, me, me mentality, you lose respect for other people because you're focused on yourself. And then they become things. They honestly become things, objects, instruments, and tools to accomplish your desires. Now, that may be one way to look at the world. That's certainly the way many people do. But the way that God has asked us to look at the world is to say what? Look at other. You have to be crucifixional. Look at other. Think about other person first. Show them respect. And you know what? Here's the good news. When you do that, it will come back to you. And it will come back tenfold. That's the beautiful part about it, is that people are looking to be humanized, not to become things, cops, right? Like the ticket, or Democrats or Republicans or priests or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like they want to be people, humanized people. And if we do that with respect, it will come back to us. I said fourfold, tenfold. I don't know. It just keeps flooding back upon us. So remember, Philippians, all those verses are beautiful. That your homework, practical point number 1 is read 1 Peter. But you can see, or I want you to see that our main thrust, and we're going to end here. I'm going to give you one practical and then we'll resume tomorrow. The main thrust comes to us from Philippians 2. Count others better than yourselves. Look to the other's interests before you look to your own. And that is following Christ par excellence. Very difficult to do, but it's the essence of all of it. So let me end here. I'm going to give you a practical point. This is a very simple one, and I've thrown it out there years ago, maybe not quite that long, but it's a really impressive thing to do, and you will see how it happens. All right, so let me start with this as the practical point. What are the sweetest 2 words in the English language? What are the sweetest 2 words? Your name, right? We love to hear our name. Like if I say, I'm trying to think, Greg, who are some of our regular watchers? Ellen Chorus. Nice to see you, Ellen. Susan Sage is a regular watcher. Thank you, Susan. God bless you, sweetheart. Who else do we hear and see? Yvonne Sage is another one. Beautiful. I mean, there are so many of you. And forgive me for naming some and not others, but those people that we named, woo, it's the sweetest sound in the world. So here's the practical point. When you go to a restaurant, any type of service industry, anywhere, whether it's at Walmart or when you're shopping at the grocery store, wherever you go, the mall, when you purchase clothing, whatever, but practice it in restaurants. Say the name of your server. Call him or her by their name. Now, you may say, well, what if I don't know it? Okay, that's your job. Go find it. Find their name and use their name. Right? So that we play this competition in my house. The first one, every time we go out to dinner with her as a family, my bride and I and the girls have this competition. The first one to get the name of the server, wins the day. And so sometimes you can see it right on their name tag. Sometimes they'll come right up and say, hi, I'm X or I'm Y and I will be your server. Sometimes they don't have either. And so we ask. Now, interestingly enough, it's fabulous for me, like glorious to watch my 16 and 14-year-old daughters do that by habit and by nature without me. But something more important than that happens. When you ask for that person's name, you are showing them that you have respect for them as a human being, right? They're not just my waiter, right? My waitress. They're Sally or Jim, right? They become human beings. And that is what Christ has asked us to do. And a byproduct of that is that I'm telling you, not even 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, 9,998,9,999, whatever, out of a billion. I mean, you're going to have better service, right? Like, because now all of a sudden, I'm not just some dude who has to bring their food. I'm Jim. I'm not just some girl who's got to take their abuse. I'm Sally. You know what I'm saying? And it makes the other person a human being, and they just by nature reciprocate. So practice that practical point. Find the name and use the name for your server or whomever, whatever industry you may be patronizing, whatever, not patronizing, patroning that moment. Don't patronize, patron. All right. But you know what I'm saying? Like the idea is find their name and use their name. Make them into human beings. When you do that, it's going to take you a long way. I love it. I love you, beautiful people. I'm going to ask you now for some help. Number one, please share this all over the place. Help us out. We're growing, but we want to make a huge impact, a huger impact than we've already made. We're thankful for all of those people who are a part of us now already. Thank you. We're going to keep grinding and doing this, but we also need your help to get it out there. Share it. And, visit us at warriorsaints.org. That's the second one. We want to see all of you beautiful people subscribing to the Way of the Warrior Saint. That's our online library where we teach things much like this lesson today, but in greater detail, in greater depth, with a lot more practical points to throw at our lives and a lot more implementable tools to start acting like crucifixional leaders, to become warrior saints. And it's really simple. All you got to do is visit that page, warriorsaints.org, subscribe to the Way of the Warrior Saint. Then you get full access to all of it. There's a huge library filled with topics. And I mean, it's fun. It's great. It's growing every day. We're thankful, but help us. If you wouldn't mind, share this video. Just throw it all over your stuff if you're able to do that. When you subscribe right now for a little bit longer, we have a beautiful promo code that will give you 30% off. And plus you also get these beautiful Warrior Saints masks for free. No mask is good. We understand that. But if you have to wear it, these are really comfortable. There's some kind of, I don't even know what it is, spongy material that they're great. They really are comfortable as far as they go. So you get your Warrior Saints mask for free when you subscribe today. We will see you tomorrow for some more crucifixional live stream. And in the coming days, we're going to have a exciting special surprise announcement for you. So stay tuned for all that good stuff. Have a great day. Remember, be respectful. Find the person's name, use the person's name, and to always count others as better than yourselves. Until tomorrow, keep walking on the way of the Warrior Saint.